Welcome back to another episode of Ball Knowledge Podcast. Today, we are joined by the man himself, Kishan Bahara. Anything to say on your comeback, Kishan?
Yeah, I mean, it's good to be back. I'm glad to make a comeback, and I'm ready to talk some college football and NFL. Let's do it.
So, we have got some special episodes coming up for you guys. We are literally going to be dropping an episode every day for the next week and a half. We are going to be talking about the top five players going into every position and going into the NFL draft. So yeah, I'm so excited to do this. It's definitely going to be hectic, but it's going to be fun. I guess we can start with number five. We have Will Howard from Ohio State. Anything to say, Kishan?
Yeah, so Will Howard, just one of those guys who's really worked his way up. Obviously, starting at Kansas State, and was slowly pushed out by the really good dual threat quarterback Avery Johnson. Pushed him out, came to Ohio State, and he had nothing given to him. I mean, he had to earn that starting role. He finally got it, and he proved why he should be the starter there. I mean, obviously leading them to the national championship. Just a phenomenal pocket passer, inside and outside, and I think that Jeremiah Smith helped really put the cherry on top of his career. So
I mean,
yeah,
personally, I absolutely hate Will Howard's guts as a Michigan fan. I still think that the 2023 team would have beaten Ohio State. But got to give credit where credit is due. He definitely worked his ass off, and that mentality was insane. Like he just had some confidence, like exude, like going through him the entire time. And I mean, he had supreme, like good enough athleticism where I think it could translate well enough into the league. I think that, like, he came in, had 4,000 passing yards, threw 35 touchdowns, had 10 picks, got to work on the turnovers a little bit. But he had an 86.4 PFF grade. And like I think that he can make throws. Like he has really good like throwing ability outside and inside the pocket. If there's one thing I'd say he should work on, it would be his like footwork. He gets a little heel clicky sometimes. And then I guess no, actually, I do have one other thing. He's pretty old. He's pretty damn old coming into the draft. He is 24 years old. I mean, in my opinion, like he's already coming into like where his ceiling is going to be.
yeah, I think that he'll probably go second round at highest just because of all those factors, age. But also, let's talk about his size. I mean, 6'4", 235. What a frame for a quarterback. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
Um, he can really use it in so many different ways with his arm talent, with his legs, being able to just power through the defensive line. I think that his size is a huge asset. So there's a lot of good things about Will Howard, and there's a lot of things that you could maybe say are not assets to him, such as his age. But I think age won't be as much of a factor considering that I honestly think that unless he makes a crazy big jump in the NFL, I think he'll probably be a career backup.
That's
Um,
valid.
very high value career backup. But, the guy still has been a phenomenal college quarterback, really worked his way up. Very respectable.
All right, I guess we could go into number four. Jalen Milrow out of Alabama. LANK. Let a naysayer know. I am not going to say what that actually means. Yeah, he's dual threat. He is the definition of a dual threat quarterback. He had 2,800 passing yards, 700 rushing yards, and he had 20 rushing touchdowns, which is absolutely insane. Like in the NFL for a running back, like that is considered an amazing season. Like
Yeah,
this guy has like Mike Vick level athleticism, in my opinion, and he like has that also like Mike Vick like deep ball. Like that man can just launch the absolute crap out of a ball.
Yeah, I think Jalen Milrow is just one of those guys who's on and off. He turns on a
Yeah.
switch and he goes out there and beats teams like Georgia, and then he goes out there and loses to Michigan,
Oh,
right?
I was happy about that.
So, so Jalen Milrow is just obviously the most talented, athletic quarterback that we see on this list. I also would like to say that, his ability to run the ball is something that we don't see a lot coming into this draft class. We don't see a lot of dual threat quarterbacks except him, especially with this level of athleticism. So I think Jalen Milrow could go first round at the very highest.
That's questionable right there.
Just depends. Well, it just depends on if these teams can flip on that switch of of being consistent, putting in the work every day and helping a team consistently win, through his athletic abilities and his talents.
Yeah, I agree. Going up, number three, we have got Dylan Gabriel by way of Oregon. And this man is a dinosaur. Like he probably played football with cavemen. Like this man has been playing college football forever. He is 25 years old going into the draft. And like he has the second most passing yards in college football history behind Case Keenum, former Vikings legend, one would say.
Right. Yeah. So, Dylan Gabriel, obviously lefty, very, very undersized, but I've been watching this guy since he was in the, Big 12, playing in the Big 12. You could always say that he's a pretty talented quarterback. Obviously, he was a Heisman finalist this year, which is a huge accolade. But there's also that question of inconsistency with Dylan Gabriel. And I think that's a big aspect of all these quarterbacks, but especially with him. He goes out there and beats Ohio State and then gets blown out by them. So it's just all dependent on how he's doing just consistency wise.
Yeah, just to add on to that a little bit, like I think that Dylan Gabriel, like where he excels at is like timing and like the touch on the ball. Like in the short and intermediate area, there is no one better in this draft at putting like just touch on a ball and like knowing how hard to throw the ball than Dylan Gabriel. But the problem is once you get past that intermediate range into that like go ball range, like he is wildly inaccurate. Like he is like Tua in the sense where he's one lefty and two needs to work on the deep ball.
Right, right. So yeah, I mean Dylan Gabriel, journeyman. So we'll see what happens with him. I mean he's a pretty old guy. I don't expect him to have a amazing NFL career by any means, but who knows?
Yeah. All right. Number two, we got bust out that AP perfect timing himself, Shador Sanders, son of NFL legend Deion Sanders. And his career, in my opinion, at Colorado, like even though he's got so much attention, like it's an underrated career. Like because attention has never really been on his throwing ability and more or less just the team itself. And like I think that he has the best accuracy and best mechanics in this entire draft.
100%. I mean, that guy he's a playmaker. He's a playmaker, and we saw that so many times. Obviously, that Hail Mary, which should have been a Hail Mary twice,
Yeah.
but he made a really great throw on that. I think his playmaking and his accuracy is just something that sets him apart from these guys. Which, who knows? He could go to the Raiders. He could go to the Browns. I think that he'll be a great NFL player. One thing I do want to say though is his ability to be coached. I mean, he's only been coached by his father his whole career. I mean, just keeping that in mind. Obviously, high school at Jackson State and here in Colorado. So we don't actually know how coachable of a player he is. I mean, obviously, in order to be coachable, you have to be a phenomenal quarterback like he is. But it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out. How he's able to battle adversity in that aspect. So I think Shador will have a successful NFL career like his father.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of see him in the lens like he is like, yeah, he really needs to. This is his first time stepping out of his father's like shadow. And I think that like some other things he needs to work on, like I think that like, of course, he took a lot of sacks and the Colorado offensive line was nowhere near good enough. But I also think like his decision making sometimes, like he didn't use his athleticism enough to get out of those situations. Like he took more sacks than he needed to take,
Mm-hmm.
and he sometimes just held on to the ball too long. Like, obviously, you as a Bears fan know what that's like with Justin Fields,
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
but
And Caleb Williams.
and Caleb Williams can't escape that. And so, yeah, also one other thing is like Dylan Gabriel, I think that he's like that arm strength, like he doesn't have that elite wow factor go ball ability. Like he is limited in that aspect, but otherwise, yeah, I agree with you. I think he should have a very, very exciting career.
Yeah, I mean, this is a chance for him to write his own story.
Mhm.
Obviously, he's lived in his dad's shadow his whole life, being coached. And now he's starting to write his own story, becoming a Heisman finalist. And, we'll see what happens.
And we got number one, the man himself from Miami, Mr. Nonchalant, Cam Ward.
Yeah, so Cam Ward, obviously, also another physical specimen in this draft. So many great things to say about him. He really is an underdog. I mean, he started at I think it
Incarnate
was
Ward.
Incarnate Word.
Yeah.
Yeah, and obviously he was not a star recruit, I believe. So it's really amazing once you see a guy go from that to a Heisman finalist to potentially the first overall pick. So
Yeah, I mean, Cam Ward exuberates confidence for someone from his position, like going from Incarnate Ward to Washington State to now like Miami and now the NFL. Like he literally believes he can do everything on the field. Like he believes he can make every throw, every read. He believes he can whenever he takes off, like he is going to get the yards he needs. Like I think sometimes though that can get a little bit too much. Like I think he's a little bit too confident sometimes and
yeah,
puts the
yeah,
ball
I think
on
he's
his
a
way a
little
little bit.
cocky. Yeah, I mean, like he made a statement today that I saw. He said, if a team doesn't draft me, then it's going to be their
Saw
fault or
that.
something along those lines. And we kind of saw. I'm not saying that Cam Ward is Josh Rosen by any means, but we've heard similar statements by highly touted draft prospects that just haven't panned out. So I think Cam Ward isn't Josh Rosen by any means, but once you hear a guy like that make statements, it starts it starts to get to you a little bit. And
Yeah.
definitely, I mean, even talking about when he was at Washington State, right? I remember last year when he initially declared for the draft. I mean, this guy was also supposed to be a really highly touted draft prospect even last year. He had a great season at Washington State and then just came to Miami and turned it up a whole nother level. The guy is oozing with talent.
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely don't think that there is a physical ability wrong with Cam Ward. Like, I really think he can do everything. I think it is just the mental side. Like, I think he can
Mhm.
work on reading coverages. I think he could get a little bit too cocky. He doesn't like to throw the ball away or throw to the check down. Like, he's always looking for that big play. And sometimes that gets in the way. But
Yeah,
yeah, I think out of every quarterback, he is the highest ceiling and the highest like floor also going into this.
yeah. Like I mean, we all saw that clip of Cam Ward just literally standing flat-footed in the pocket.
Yeah.
You know, that's not going to happen in the NFL. I'm
No,
sure
there's
he
no
knows
way.
that,
No
but
offensive
it's
line.
not something. Yeah, it's not something that you want to see. It kind of, it pissed me off. I'm going to be honest. You
Yeah.
don't see that. You don't see that ever in football.
In
So
any
for him
level.
to be, yeah, in any level, for him to be privileged like that, it's definitely comes off as a little cocky. But I'm sure Cam Ward, part of his play, kind of shows that he is that guy. So we'll see what happens.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Kishan, for joining on this episode. We will have another episode similar length coming out tomorrow about running backs. Can't wait for that one. Thank you guys. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.